I read 95 books in 2024, and it is finally time to talk about them all. Grab your snacks and your bevy because this is the longest video I have ever made, and I hope it helps you with your New Year's reading goals. And who knows, maybe you'll find your next 5-star read from this video. But first things first, we gotta look presentable for you guys. Does anyone else get a dopamine hit from doing their makeup? Anyways, let's get this fire going and grab our books and get to chatting. Try not to rag on me because I still have my Christmas decorations up, but it's still cold in Florida, so we're just gonna pretend it's still Christmas time. So just ignore my stockings and enjoy the fire. And thank God for the Storygraph app, by the way, because otherwise I don't know how I'd be able to categorize all the books I read in 2024 without this. It would have taken me forever. So we're gonna go look at my app and see what are all of the books that I read by category. So we're gonna start off strong with the worst books I read in 2024. I wanna end this video on a good note. So without further ado, let's get into all the books that I read in 2024. I gave 2 books last year a 1-star rating, and I did not give that lightly. I try really hard to not judge them based off of like my own feelings or anything like that. I really try to not, but again, reading is subjective and you can make of a book what you will. So while I do think there are some potential writing flaws in these books, I also think the author lost the plot. And it just didn't do it for me. It didn't cut it for me to the point where I just don't recommend it to anybody, and I need to spare people the time that I wasted reading these books. So the first book that I gave 1 star was Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. This book had so much potential to me because it gave the feeling of that new Riley Sager book. I think No One Is Left. I read that book also, and that one was good. And it also reminded me a little bit of an Agatha Christie novel. I think that's the vibe she was going for. And in the beginning, you are put in this situation on this house by the sea on a cliff, and a really unruly family. No one likes each other in this family. They're all like terrible people, and you discover quickly that the narrator is quite unreliable. At first you feel empathy for her because she seems like the odd one out in this family, and when the rich grandmother falls dead, you are kind of trying to figure out like a whodunit situation. They're all confined to this house, so you know it's one of the family members, or maybe someone is like lurking in the house. We don't know. And so that's essentially the premise of the novel, right? It sounds interesting. As the story progresses, you start to hate more and more all of the characters, particularly the main character. She just seems so off. And again, is she a product of her environment? Probably, but I don't think that excuses the actions that were made in this book. And the ending was so dumb. And I'm not gonna do spoilers in this video at all, but I will just say that you could have ended the novel in a different way for the same conclusion, if that makes sense. I don't recommend this book. I think there are much better, if you're trying to look for like a whodunit family mystery or thriller, there are so much better books out there, and maybe I'll do a full book rec video on thrillers. This is not it. And if there's any Alice Feeney books you do recommend, let me know in the comments, because it really turned me off of this author from this book. The next book I gave a 1-star rating was actually one of the last books I read in 2024, which is very disappointing. And that is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. It's book 3 in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. I will just say this series should not have been a trilogy. It should have been one book. A standalone story, mystery. Let it be 5 stars. Get your coin from this really good book, and don't keep trying to milk it, because why mess with perfection? The more you try to write, the less believable and more irritating the characters become over time. I've seen this in so many different series, but with this one particularly, I was very disappointed, and I am not alone in this, okay? A lot of people like Daisy Darker, but this book, the comments on Goodreads were ruthless. And I do feel kind of bad for the author, but again, book 3, I think she wrote book 3 on purpose to like really annoy her audience. I don't know. I don't know what she has against us. I don't know why she would try to hurt us this way, but she did. She succeeded in that. and I can no longer trust her as an author. Just saying. We have, moving on now to 2-star ratings. And I think my fire needs some more logs. A Fragile Enchantment by Allison Saft. I actually really wanted to like. It looked so cute. The cover is beautiful, and a lot of people on YouTube and BookTube were talking about it. I think it gave Bridgerton vibes mixed with fantasy, and I love that concept. I thought it was so unique, so clever, very cute, and like a whimsical plot storyline. Oh, there it goes. We have this magical dressmaker who's commissioned to make these royal gowns for an upcoming wedding for like the royal family or whatever. And she basically falls in love with the prince. This magic system or whatever it is that she has, this ability, it also saps the life from her. So every time she's like making garments for people, it makes her sicker and sicker. So the clock is basically ticking on her life. And while I really liked the Regency England type of style that the setting provided for us, I do think that the plot line and the characters were super annoying, and that's what bugged me. I did finish the book, but I didn't find the romance believable. I found the friendships to be incredibly fake. There was little to no character development in my opinion. And it's not even that it read and like was too young for me, because that wasn't the case. It was that the characters truly bothered me. They were just written in a way that I couldn't root for them. I didn't want anyone to be happy in this book, and I feel like that's not what was intended by the author, you know? So if a book's not making me root for the characters, I can't get behind the story. And unfortunately, that was the case for this book. So I will not be continuing this series. I also don't remember much of this plot, and I think that's very telling as well, because I think I have a pretty good memory. But it was just an unforgettable read, and the only good thing I have to say about it was that this cover is beautiful. A Quiet Retreat by Kirsten Modglin is another thriller set in like this wintry cabin with a bunch of authors, and they're supposed to like write the next great thriller novel together in this like 1-week retreat that's like all expensive paid. But stuff is going down in this cabin, and people are going missing, the lights aren't turning on, their phones go missing, and it's just kind of really weird. And the reason why I gave this one a 2-star rating is the ending specifically was like kind of dumb. I didn't understand why someone could be that chaotic, and like that's the excuse you have for doing the things you did. Like once we get to the big reveal, I'm like, really girl? Like really? That's what we're going with here? So I didn't appreciate that. Also, there were times in the book where it was so slow, I really didn't care, and I was getting bored. I did listen to this as an audiobook, so I don't know if that's what did it for me, but normally listening to a thriller is so fun to do. So this one didn't do it for me. It was quite dull. And then again, the reveal at the end was very anticlimactic and quite irksome. Then I read First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. This book essentially covers a girl who's not who she says she is. She's like a con woman working for some corporation or man that we don't know who he is. And she is currently on a job dating this guy, and he's like super rich or whatever, and she's supposed to find dirt on him, and is just supposed to keep relaying this information, whatever she finds on her boyfriend. She's supposed to relay it to her boss until the job is done, essentially. And again, one of those situations where the book was very anticlimactic, kind of boring. I liked her backstory, but we didn't really get enough of that to warrant the boring scenes in this book. And I wish that the ending was more adventurous or more sinister. Once we get the big reveal of like who is pulling the strings and calling the shots for this girl Evie, I don't know. I feel like it was a waste of my time, honestly. But I didn't give it 1 star because I don't think it was like terrible book. I just think it was so kind of dull. And it was supposed to be this almost spy novel, like a spy mystery, except she's a con woman. So it was supposed to give those vibes, and it didn't. I did also read the Farseer trilogy, and while I gave like each book, I gave like a different rating. Book 3 I didn't really like. I actually was super upset by the ending because I'm so sorry, but Fitz is one of my favorite characters in a fantasy that I've read in a while, and I just think he was done so dirty. If you know, you know. But that's the main reason why I gave this book a 2-star, because he deserved better. He deserved happiness. And while I do think that there were scenes also that were a little slower paced than the other books, I do think that Robin Hobb just does the progression of like traveling through a kingdom. She does it pretty well, and we do get a lot of character development with Fitz and the Fool as well. Like all of the characters are just, they're so good. But unfortunately for me, like the ending was so annoying. I couldn't give it anything. I had to give it 2 stars. Purely biased, I know, and I'm sure a lot of people absolutely loved every single book and gave it 5 stars. But for me, it was too emotional. I could not give it more than 2 stars. I'm sorry. And that's all I'm gonna say about that, because I can't get into spoilers, but it was a really good trilogy. Other than the ending of book 3. Never Lie by Frida McFadden was so dark. It was like twisted. It was twisted. And I've come to find out that Frida McFadden is not one of my favorite thriller authors. I think she writes really good, fast-paced, like quick, easy reads. But it's nothing to write home to mom about. Are they worth turning into movies? To be determined. Let me watch The Housemaid and then I will get back to you. But Never Lie was messed up. Like, it was really messed up. I didn't like it. I just thought it was too dark for me. Honestly, that's all I have to say about it. I think that the storyline was good. It was twisty. It was weird. We're going along with it. And then you get to the big reveal and, you know, the ending. I'm like, what did I just read? Like, that wasn't okay. I feel like I had to pray after that one, because the bad person in this book was really bad. Yeah. And this is why we should never lie, kids. Also, most of these I've been reading. I actually didn't realize I read so many audiobooks this year, but I was just so busy and life got in the way and I just didn't have time to sit and read books. So we listened to a lot of books this year. One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searles. I knew a lot of people didn't like this book and I should have listened, but I really like the dinner list and my sister-in-law loves Rebecca Searles, so I gave this book a shot. And my, the main character is potentially one of the worst main characters I have ever read in my life. She is a terrible wife, a super annoying spoiled daughter. And what happens in the story is that the mother dies. That's the main plot, okay? Mom dies, and they were supposed to go on this mother and daughter trip together to Italy. Never happens, but the daughter decides to go anyway. And while she's there, she like sees her mom as she would have been in like her 20s. Because I guess when her mom was like in her early 20s, she went on like a solo trip to Italy. And so she kind of gets like to see these flashbacks or like live with her mom. I don't know, it's like some weird timeline thing. And she's supposed to like discover a lot about her mom and all this stuff. But what really bothered me was how she treated her husband. It was so not okay, and I don't like the message that was given to this in this book. I don't want anyone reading this book to think that's an okay way to treat your husband, because it's not. And just because you're going through something, just because you're grieving, just because you are sad, it doesn't give you the right to be disrespectful and to someone you love. Yeah, like it really bothered me. So I gave it 2 stars. Now we're getting into the big 3 stars. This, I gave the most books in 2024 a 3-star rating. I don't know if that was me being harsh or gracious. You guys can decide in the comments, but we're gonna start off with Don't Go Faking My Heart by Kate Watson. Like I said, I listened to so many books this year. I was just trying to find whatever was showing up on my library app, but also what was on Kindle. So I did read a lot of Kindle books as well. And I don't want to say that independently published authors are bad. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I do think that sometimes people rush. And sometimes when I read books, it gives the impression that they were rushed. They weren't really thought through. I don't know how long the editing process was, but a final draft comes and I'm reading them and I'm sorry. But yeah. Don't Go Faking My Heart is a rom-com small town romance where it's like best friends to lovers type of situation, but the MMC's name is Rusty. That was strike one, and it was like a fake dating friends to lovers thing, and we do get dual POVs in this, but it was fine. I don't really have too much to say about it. I normally really like friends to lovers, This one was just really cheesy, and I think that was it for me. It was fine, but it was a little cheesy. But if you like fake dating, if you like small town romances, if you like sweet Hallmark movies, maybe you would like it. Then I read the Finley Donovan series, and I gave book 1, I think, a 4 or 5 stars, but books 2 and 3, I gave a 3-star rating. That series was so much fun. It should be made into like a TV show on Peacock or something. It was silly. It definitely reminds me of that one show on Netflix, Good Girls or something, where it's like a regular mom, but she has to do nefarious things, but she doesn't mean to. She kind of gets put in the situation, and like one thing leads to another, and it's so ridiculous. It's so funny. I found myself laughing throughout the whole series. Books 2 and 3 were just continuations of book 1, so really nothing earth-shattering, groundbreaking in terms of the plot or character development or anything like that, but it was a good time. It was a fun read. So yeah, I gave books 2 and 3 a 3-star rating. The Rom-Commers by Catherine Center was also cute. I really liked her other books that she's written. This book, I think it was her new release for last year. She's an aspiring screenwriter, and she gets the opportunity to work with another screenwriter who's like a hotshot in Hollywood, and they have to work together to write the screenplay. She goes to LA to do it, and they're basically become friends. Like, it's like a Grumpy Sunshine type of situation-ish. Then they become friends, and they become more than friends or whatever. It was really sweet. I liked the aspects of them writing a screenplay and then working on their issues together and becoming friends and like just navigating all of that and learning about themselves in the process. I thought that was really well done. Catherine Center does a really good job with writing storylines with like trauma or like stuff that people are dealing with internally, and like having them deal with it separately and together. I think she does it really, really well. But in a cutesy way, to where it's digestible, palatable for a rom-com, you know? It was a very hopeful storyline, and it was cute. Meet Me in the Margins by Rebecca Ferguson. Also love the cover. Also love that she's a writer. I love when we have journalists, writers, screenwriters, authors, whatever, as the FMC. They're just really fun and motivating for me. The description says it's You've Got Mail meets The Proposal, and 100% yes. I think it was really cute. She's writing a book, and she's not supposed to like give the draft out to people because she's kind of like a nobody at this firm that she works for. It's like a marketing firm for authors, but she's working on this draft for herself, and she leaves it upstairs in like this empty room. Well, someone comes up and writes notes in the margins for like editing. So she goes back and forth with this stranger who she's never met and is working on this draft, and while she's doing that, like other stuff is going on in her life. It was really cute. I like the concept a lot. Haven't really heard a lot of people talk about this book, but I do think it's worth reading for like a fun, quick rom-com that reminds you of a swoon-worthy 90s love story that you used to watch. I feel like people are gonna hate me for this, but I did give Babel a 3-star rating. Oh, my fire. I don't really know what I expected from Babel. People that read it and loved it said that it was dark academia fantasy, kind of, which I didn't really get, honestly. And I appreciated the history that came from the story, talking about colonialism and the history with all of that. But I do think it leaned really heavy into that. Obviously, the author is giving their opinion on what they think was right or wrong during that time, and I don't know enough about that subject personally to really give an opinion. I don't know, it just kind of threw me off from the story. I wanted it to be more entertaining than it was. Also, the footnotes really threw me off, but other than that, I think it was fine. I like when dark academia books have like this band of friends that are meant to stick together. They're like the misfits or whatever. I like that in stories. I like the setting. It was fine. It was just not as entertaining as I would have liked it to be, I guess. So that's Babel. Sorry if you guys really liked it. Then I read Gilded by Marissa Meyer, and I don't know why I read that book, because I don't like Marissa Meyer's writing. I have some of you guys that absolutely love her writing, and you've encouraged me. You've told me to try this book. It's so much better than Renegades. I gave it my best shot, okay? I really did. I just don't think her writing is for me. I think maybe if I had read her when I was 13, 14, she would have been really fun to. I normally can get with a lot of YA writing if it's extremely YA or written for a super, super young audience. Like, I can tell my brain that and we can go along with the story. I just still didn't like the story. I still didn't. Even though it was a Rumpelstiltskin retelling, I couldn't get past it. So I think I'm done with her. No hard feelings to everyone that absolutely loves her. I can't do it anymore. I tried, and she's just not for me. And that's okay. But who is for me is Beth O'Leary. I read The Switch because when I read the description at Barnes & Noble, it sounded like The Holiday, which is my absolute favorite Christmas movie. And I wanted to give it a go. I love Beth O'Leary. She has written every book I've read from her. I think I've given like a 4 or 5 stars. I did give this one 3 stars just because it was a little slower paced than her other books, but it was still really well done. I loved that we have this grandmother-granddaughter relationship and how sweet they are with each other, and the thought of a grandmother going to the big city to like find love again. That's precious to me. And very wholesome read, very sweet storyline. I actually preferred the grandma storyline versus her granddaughter going to like the small village where the grandmother lived. It was a little slower paced, but it was still a good time. It was still really wholesome and cozy. If you're looking for something that reminds you of the movie The Holiday, you should check this book out. One Last Play is an age gap reverse Grumpy Sunshine sweet rom-com that I found on Kindle Unlimited, and I thought it was really cute. We have the coach of this football team who is the ward, I guess, or guardian for his niece because his sister died. So basically he's the father figure for his niece, and the FMC is her art teacher, and she's kind of grumpy because she's like sworn off of love or whatever, and he is like, I really like her. She gets me. So I need to make this work somehow. I need to make her fall in love with me. And it was really cute. I liked the relationship with him and his niece. I liked the relationship with her and his niece and how they found each other. I thought it was really cute. It wasn't too cheesy. So if you're looking for a sports romance that's like clean and wholesome, no spice, but has those sports elements and you like those tropes, I do think you would like this one because it's not too cheesy. It's more of a believable storyline, and it was cute. Then I read A Flicker in the Dark by Stacy something. I buddy read this one, and it was definitely like a dark and twisty type of thriller. We have a bunch of girls that go missing, and time goes by. We're trying to figure out this cold case essentially because other stuff starts happening in this town or something happens, and the psychologist, who's our main female character, she is kind of like paranoid. Something's going on and just doesn't make sense because I think it was her dad, if I'm not mistaken. Her dad was like this person that was arrested all these years ago. So she's got a lot of trauma, but then stuff starts happening again and she's like, is this like a copycat? Like she's feeling super paranoid. So we have that situation. It was definitely entertaining, but I feel like it's been done before. That's why I gave it 3 stars, and I don't think you shouldn't read it, but if you have read something like this already and you don't feel like reading it again, then maybe not, but it was good. It was a good time. Definitely would see it becoming a limited series on Netflix. The Rebound, also on Audible, was actually free. I think that's why I read it. I saw it for free on Audible, and I was like, let me give it a shot. Do I remember the storyline of this? Absolutely not. It was a very unforgettable story. So we're not going to dwell too much on this one. I want to say there's a love triangle from the cover. Is that terrible of me that I don't remember? The Fury by Alex Michaelides really bums me out because I was hoping this would be his comeback from The Maidens because that book was terrible. And I really loved The Silent Patient, one of my favorite thrillers that I've read. The Fury is a retelling of like some Greek storyline or something like that. It has to do with Greek, like a Greek tragedy. He's really into that kind of stuff. I think he's actually Greek. Anyway, I digress. This was a weird one. It was super weird. We're on this island and we just have like a bunch of rich people that truly just don't like each other, but they're trying to use each other for different reasons. And we have this celebrity, we have her assistant best friend that's just always around her, weird. And just some other people that are just so fake. It really reminds me of the show The Lotus. Just a lot of stuck-up individuals, and there's a crime that takes place on this island, and you have a bunch of people, the help, you have the friends, you have the son, you have the actress, but it was underwhelming and kind of annoying how he tries to tie in all of the books he's written together. He tries to tie them in. So you do get a little glimpse of that in past and present POV or past and present timeline. It was just an underwhelming read. I gave it 3 stars because I appreciated what he was trying to do, but I don't think he succeeded in that. Yeah, I could have actually given this 2 stars, but whatever. I'm trying to be nice. The Third Wife, I read because I actually really like Lisa Jewell and I saw it in my library app, so I just decided, why not? Let's give it a go. It was not great. I actually think this was her worst book. Maybe that's why I've never heard of it. But we essentially have a wife. The story starts with the wife having like herself, and her husband like years later is trying to deal with the aftermath. He's like remarried or he's with somebody else, and it's interesting because the story goes with, did she really try to do that to herself, or is there more to the story? So I didn't love it, didn't hate it. I read it. We're here. I gave it 3 stars. Yeah. Mr. Malcolm's List, I saw on Amazon Prime Video, but I didn't watch the movie, and I was like, I know this is a book, let me read it. It was fine. We essentially have a girl who told by like her cousin or friend or something that there's this rake who has a list of all of these reasons to not be with somebody and like what he's looking for in like the perfect wife, and they want to like rat him out essentially. So they want to make him look bad, make him feel bad or whatever, and essentially that's the story. So it's giving like this Pride and Prejudice type of vibe. Nothing to write home about either. I think that's the theme with 3-star ratings. I don't have to talk too much about them because they were kind of underwhelming. Same goes with Cinder and Glass. This was a blind date with a book that I bought for Valentine's Day, and it is a Cinderella retelling, and I gave it 3 stars. Cinderella isn't my favorite Disney princess, for 1, but 2, I think it was cute. It just needed more like I wanted to feel more sympathy for our main girl. I think you're supposed to, obviously, because her whole life she's been taken advantage of and is essentially like a servant in her own home. Her stepmother is like a terrible person. So obviously that's the intent with the Cinderella story, but yeah, it was cute. So I heard that Crazy Rich Asians is coming out with a sequel, like the movie. I'm so excited. That movie is one of my favorites of all time. I did already read book 1 and 2, so I decided to read book 3. I gave it 3 stars because it's just a continuation of the drama of these rich people living in Singapore and China. If you liked Crazy Rich Asians and you like the whole storyline of like the rich and famous, if you liked Bling Empire on Netflix, you will really like that series and you should read it. I also read A Sprinkle of Christmas Magic. I think that was one of the last books I read of the year as well. I found it on Kindle. It was really short. That was quintessential Hallmark small town romance movie. We have a widower and a girl from the city who comes back to town to help her grandma's bake shop, and he's just enamored by her. He's like, you're so good with my daughter, she loves you, so I love you. And she's torn between like city life and coming back home and all that. So it's cute. It has a little bit of that Christmas magic. If you love that, then definitely read it for the holiday season. It is super cute. It would make a fantastic Hallmark movie though. Then I read Hollow Court by Elle Madison and Robin D. Mayle. I loved the Lachlan Feud series. If you like fantasy romance, but you don't want all the spice, you could do with a closed door situation, definitely check them out. So good. Reminds me a little bit of Outlander, but not too much. But we have a girl from this like other kingdom, like other side of the wall type of kingdom. They're almost like savages in a way. They have like a bunch of tribes or whatever, but they have their own way of living. She has an arranged marriage to one of the guys from this tribe, and he's like semi-abusive. She runs away back to this kingdom where she had met this guy like a while ago in one of the other series, and they kind of had a thing for each other, but they never really acted on it because she was betrothed to this other guy. Again, I gave it 3 stars because I found it entertaining, but it wasn't like an earth-shattering crazy read, but I found it really good nonetheless. This is one of those books where you'll just breeze through it. It's not like a crazy page turner, but it was interesting enough to kind of grab your attention throughout the series. This is book 1, and I liked the romance. I thought it was really sweet as well. So if you like romantasy, definitely check this one out. So let's talk about Nightbane by Alex Astor. I think at this point I am reading Lightlark solely for the vibes and to finish it so I can give you my final thoughts on the whole story, because I think it's quite ridiculous, and I also don't think that the magic system or this fantasy world makes complete sense. I have so many questions that I don't think they answer. In regards to Isla, the main character's world, her islands where they're cursed, like all of these different realms have these different curses put upon them, which they were trying to break in the Centennial, which is what Lightlark is about. Her world just has so many plot holes that I don't understand, and they don't really go into it too much. We don't spend a lot of time in her world, but in Nightbane we do go back a little bit, so I just have some questions about that we don't really get answers to. Maybe we will more in the next book. I have not read Sky Shade, is that what it's called? I haven't read that one yet. Book 2 did end with an interesting plot twist. We go into this past and present timeline, which is interesting, and it does tie in really well towards the end, which helps with the big like reveal. So that was enjoyable, and I do think it's a little unbelievable, the whole romance aspect, but we're here for it. We're gonna read it. We're gonna finish the series off. I appreciate what Alex Astor is trying to do with the overall like storyline with these different realms and the concept of Lightlark as a whole. Like, I think it's interesting and a little more original than some other fantasies that I've been reading, but again, I don't know if the payoff is 100% there, but it was fine. It was an enjoyable read. Easy as Pie is book 5 in the Sweater Weather series. I did read that entire series on Kindle Unlimited. Super cute, wholesome, small town romances in the same town. And it's written by a bunch of different authors. So Easy as Pie is written by Karina Taylor, and it is a doctor, and I don't remember, I think she's a mechanic, but it's a best friend to lover type of story. I liked this entire series. They were so sweet. Some I liked more than others. This one was really good. If you like the best friend trope, if you like childhood friends, soulmates, there's a scene where they like have a kissing lesson, and it's really cute. It's cheesy, but you can get past it. Funny Story by Emily Henry. I was actually surprised I didn't give it a higher rating, but I liked Another New Release way more, and when you compare them, it's like apples and oranges, honestly. Funny Story is not my favorite by Emily Henry, but it wasn't the worst. Our main girl's fiance ends up leaving her for his best friend, okay? So he has a girl best friend named Petra, and he says that like there's nothing going on with them, but then there is. So, and the girl Petra, she is engaged as well to a guy named Milo, I think, or Miles. So our main girl and Miles now both got dumped, and they need a place to stay, so she moves in with him, and they're just like roomies, and essentially it's their story, and they're dealing with all of the repercussions of this whole huge fallout. There's family drama, there's relationship drama, there's the awkwardness of that whole thing. It was interesting. A little bit chaotic, honestly. The premise, I can't imagine that happening to me. I would have moved. I literally would have pieced out in that town, but alas, here we are with a story. A Groom of One's Own is book 3 in the Sweater Weather series, written by Emma St. Clair. This is a hockey romance, so if you like sports, romances, hockey, marriage of convenience, you will like this one. Again, the whole series is closed door, so it's super sweet, wholesome, but there's no spice. But I think you will really like this one. I actually really like Marriage and Convenience. I think they're really funny, so it was a good time. We Were Liars by E. Lockhart was so bad. I gave it 3 stars because I actually thought the storyline was engaging. I was nonstop listening to it, like I wanted to find out what happens, but the ridiculousness of the drama between these teenagers and like what went down at this beachside cottage or whatever threw me for a loop. I was not expecting what happened to happen, and it frustrated me more than anything. I was mad with the situation, so not that it was bad, it was just, it frustrated me. Like I just wanted to shake the book or throw it against the wall because it made me mad, but I think that's what it was supposed to do. It makes you feel something for the characters. So in that sense, It was good. But yeah, I gave it 3 stars. I read my first Ellen Hilderbrand book this year called The Rumor. I gave it 3 stars. This was because I watched that one show on Netflix. I think it's called The Perfect Couple or something. I forget. It was with Dakota Fanning. So good. And then I found out that it was written, there was a book based off of it and she's the author. So now I have to read all of Ellen Hilderbrand, and here we are. I read The Rumor. It was definitely a drama, but it was engaging. It was interesting. I definitely enjoyed it. I think all of the books also deal with like rich people in a certain part of like New England or something. It gives very much Martha's Vineyard type of vibes. A Botanist's Guide to Society and Secrets by Kate Kovari. I gave 3 stars. I really liked her first 2 books way more. I want our main character to be with somebody else, and I think that's what kind of knocked it down a peg for me. But I just love the setting so much. I love the 20s London setting, and I love our main character, Saffron. I think she is so quirky and funny in her own way. Like, she's not trying to be funny at all, but she is just in her mannerisms and stuff. So I really like the series. If you like cozy mysteries, definitely check this series out. I gave this one 3 stars, again, just because of my own qualms with this love triangle situationship that we're having. But that's okay. I'm hoping things will change because I'm pretty sure it's going to keep continuing the series. Starter Villain by John Scalzi. I am very impressed with myself that I read this in my 24-hour reading challenge. You can check it out over here. It was definitely funny, sarcastic, it's satire, but it does deal with the whole controversy with big tech companies kind of taking over and what could be the ramifications of that, or like billionaires and things like that. So it definitely is funny in that sense, but I gave it 3 stars because it was definitely heavy pushing with that bias. And I am biased myself because my husband's in tech, so it's like, okay. But I found it really funny. So I did give it 3 stars for the originality of the storyline, and I love the cats in this book. I feel like the book, I think the cover speaks for itself. It is silly, it's ridiculous, it's fantastic, all in one. I'm happy to say that I got into reading some classics this year. I read George Orwell's 1984, and good golly, what an interesting story this was, and how upsetting. Do I think this is a route we're taking right now as a society? No. I think people that compare where we are now with this book, they're reaching, but it's just such an interesting concept. I think it really speaks to the importance of literature, of words in general, and of having your own beliefs and sticking up for that. So I find that to be interesting. It was really good. 3 stars. The Girl Who Was Taken by Charlie Donnelly was super twisty. We go back and forth in time again from 2 girls that were like abducted back in the day, and then the sister of one of them years later. She's a forensic pathologist, and she has an opportunity to kind of figure out what happened all those years ago. It was definitely sad, but it was enjoyable. It was an enjoyable read, but it was definitely dark, more than what I would normally go for when reading a thriller. But if that's your vibe, good on you. Definitely an interesting true crime type of storyline, and you won't expect the ending. The Rulebook by Sarah Adams is her first book actually that I read that did have spice on it. She does mention it before the book starts, so I thought that was interesting. I think that if a book, personally, I don't think books need spice. This is just my opinion, but if you're going to have it, it would be nice to include like a disclaimer or like, hey, if you want to skip this page, go ahead and do that. I did appreciate that she did that, so I'm just putting that out there. I do like her as an author, so I appreciate that. I did give this book 3 stars because it was a funny, like fast-paced rom-com sports romance, but I didn't fully find their love believable or their attraction. I thought it was just fine. I think her other characters in her previous books felt more real to me, but that's just my opinion. I'm just not the biggest fan of second chance romances, which is what this is. Second chance enemies to lovers romance. He's a football player and they get married by accident, so it's a whole thing. All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham reminds me, it was a lot like Flicker in the Dark, so I'm not gonna get into it too much. If you like to flicker in the dark, then read this one. If you didn't, then don't. But it's like a copy paste, pretty much. Like, yeah. Faking the Fall is book 4 in the Sweater Weather series. I told you there's a lot, okay, in this series. He is like a Hollywood heartthrob, whatever, and he has to, like, for whatever reason, rekindle this relationship with this person that he dumped a long time ago before he got famous. So we have a second chance relationship here, but I think it was done well. I'm not the biggest fan of like those celebrity plot lines where he's super famous and for his PR, he has to like get back with this one girl and they have to fake it kind of thing. Not my favorite book trope, but it was enjoyable. And again, all of the books in the Sweater Weather series do take place in the same town. So you're gonna have the same names of the coffee shops, you're gonna see other characters kind of walk by from previous books. So that's kind of cute. Pumpkin Everything was a super quick, I think it's almost a novella or a short story I found on Audible. I don't fully remember the plot line, but it does take place in New Hampshire, so it's giving New England vibes. It's got perfect fall atmosphere. If you like pumpkin spice lattes and small town romances, you will like this. Winter in Paradise is the next book by Ellen Hildebrand that I read, and it was actually really good. I liked it more than The Rumor. I thought the drama between what happens to this girl's husband and when she flies to his secret beach house that they didn't really know he had, all these like secrets come up. The tea was spilling with this book, but it was really good. I enjoyed it. I actually really like Ellen Hildebrand's writing style. So if you have any books by her that you recommend, let me know in the comments, because those are the only ones I've read by her so far. But I'm sold. She has sold me on her dramatic stories. Absolutely Not in Love is by Jenny Proctor, and she helped write that Sweater Weather series. I don't know if this one is specifically from that series or a spin-off series that they make as well. But it is another hockey romance. There's like this minor league hockey team in this small town, so that's why there's a lot of hockey players in this series. And yeah, some of the main characters are the hockey players. So it's interesting getting to see all of them in the different books and then get to find their happy ever after. It's cute. Do I still understand the game of hockey? Absolutely not. But will I continue reading hockey romances? Absolutely. A Most Agreeable Murder by Julia Seals I thought was so cute. The book cover is stunning. It is definitely a Regency mystery with a romantic subplot. If you liked Bridgerton, if you like Jane Austen books, and you like a Miss Marple Agatha Christie novel, then you will really like this story. It does take place in this little manor place. There's like a party going down, and the main character, she is frowned upon by society because she's super into like mystery novels and things like that, and that's not very becoming of a lady. But something goes down and she helps the detective that's like on the case try and solve the mystery, and it was really cute. The Blonde Identity by Allie Carter was so much fun. I actually forgot about Allie Carter. I read her entire little spy YA series when I was in middle school and I fell in love with it. Haven't heard from her since, and then I find out that she has written adult books, so hopped on that bandwagon, and The Blonde Identity was so fun. I absolutely loved it. If you like spy movies / Legally Blonde, you will love it. It was so good. We do have like this mini amnesia trope going on as well. It's very fast-paced, very funny, lighthearted with these action sequences that are kind of ridiculous, but you're still on board and you want to find out what happens. The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams is a historical fiction, and it has to do with a lot of words in the dictionary that were going to be left out that are super important because they have to pertain to like women, like menstrual or something. Like, I'm trying to think of something very generic that pertains to women that they weren't going to include in the dictionary. And it has to also do with like slang from lower class individuals. So I thought it was interesting, the people that built the dictionary and decided what words were important enough to put in the dictionary or leave out, who got to make those decisions. I found that to be very interesting. It was a sweet historical fiction. Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice is a romantic story that gives Gilmore Girls vibes. Small town coffee shop, and then his family comes into town and they have this like franchise that they own, and they're gonna put one of their coffee shops right in front of her family's, and so she kind of hates him for that. Very YA, so the way they act and her immaturity. It definitely shows, but I think for someone reading this book that is a teenager, you would be able to kind of see that really, really easily, where she's going wrong in her thought process, which I think is important, because just because you're making bad decisions doesn't mean your readers are gonna make those bad decisions too. If anything, like, you can learn from her. So as far as a YA book goes, that's a romance, I think it was fine. And it was cute for the fall. Courtney Walsh is another author that I'm learning to really love. There's a few women's fiction / romance authors that I'm coming to really enjoy more and more. And Courtney Walsh is one of them. A Cross Country Christmas was super cute. Their backstory is really interesting. I found it to be just a sweet storyline. So it's like a reverse Grumpy Sunshine. He's so happy-go-lucky, and she is just the Grinch. Like, she does not like Christmas, but she has to go see her brother, and he offers to drive her across the country. He just makes her see the beauty in a lot of things that I don't think she would have noticed before for whatever reason. So it's really sweet. Definitely has a nice little message at the end. Definitely recommend Courtney Walsh for pretty much any contemporary romance. I wouldn't say it's a fast-paced rom-com or romance at all. It's just like a feel-good story. And then the last book that I gave 3 stars to after Hollow Court was A Fragile Oath. It's book 2 in the Lachlan Deception series, and I did give that 3 stars as well. Not really gonna go into it too much, but I do like our 2 main characters, Galena and I think Davin is his name. Again, if you like romantasy and you don't want spice, you like closed door romances, or you appreciate that, definitely check out that series. And one last look at my fire. It is so beautiful. I can't get enough of it. Had to get a Gorgie because we are now at our 4-star rating reads. We've got a lot of ground to cover, but we are halfway through it, and we are starting off strong with The Great Gatsby. Which, by the way, if you didn't get a chance to read classics a lot in high school, or you weren't interested and you are thinking about doing that, a lot of them are free on Audible for you to listen to, and it's really short. The Great Gatsby is a classic for a reason. It is so good. I do think similarly to 1984, this is a tale, like a warning book. Like it's what could happen if you let money completely dictate your life. And that's what happens to Jay Gatsby in this book, and pretty much everyone else that's rich in the jazz era is like absolutely crazy. It's after World War I. The United States is booming with money, but they're a little heavy-handed with that, and whatever comes up must go down eventually, and that's essentially what happens in The Great Gatsby. It's really good, but again, if you're looking for a quick classic to read, definitely check this one out. The Enemy by Sarah Adams is another really cute hearted rom-com. I love Sarah Adams. I mentioned her earlier. This was one of her first books, if I'm not mistaken, but they got re-illustrated, and I think there's some extra like bonus content in these editions now. So it's an enemies to lovers second chance love. A lot of miscommunication as well. So if you don't like that trope, then you probably won't like this, but if you don't mind it, it's cute. He's back in town for like a friend's wedding, and so they see each other after all this time has gone by. It's like 12 years or something, and she is not happy about it, but yeah, I think you would really like it if you don't mind those tropes today. I also read The Wandering Inn by Pirate Abba. I don't know. My brother told me to read it, and I half read it, half listened to it. It is the longest book I have ever read, which is saying something because The Way of Kings was massive. It's an RPG fantasy, or it's just RPG, I don't know. There's also a million books in this series, which I will not be continuing. I solely read it for my brother, and while I do think that it had some interesting aspects, the RPG like leveling up type of situation is just not really for me, but I appreciate it. It's new to me. It's just not my genre. I do think the concept of The Wandering Inn is really cute, and the main character is cool as well. So she's a human and she finds herself in this world, has no idea how she got there, and we don't have no idea how she got there, but she just wakes up in this new place and she learns as she goes what it means to like level up and like get skills to do basic things. And she doesn't really know how she gets them, but she hears like this voice in her head being like, level 7, Housekeeping. So weird. If you've read RPGs and you like them, let's chat about it because that's a new concept. I also read Someone Else's Shoes by Jojo Moyes. Absolutely love her writing. If you like Beth O'Leary, if you like Emily Henry, why are you not reading Jojo Moyes? She wrote Me Before You, which I think everyone knows about. And Someone Else's Shoes is a women's fiction. There is this romantic subplot, but it's just so sweet. Like, it's about friendship and understanding a different woman's perspective in different areas of life, different walks of life. We have this successful executive lady who accidentally switches bags with this girl who's just like a mom. She's super busy and living in the suburbs, and they switch bags on accident, and we get both of their POVs while that's happening. Amazing story, so sweet. Love the message. It leaves you feeling very hopeful about like friendships and women and all that. So super cool. Culty by Mariana Zapata also was really good. I actually didn't know what to expect because the cover didn't wow me, but I loved All Roads Lead Here and The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. So good. Really, really like Mariana Zapata. I think most of them that I've read are sports romances. This one is too. She is a soccer player and he is the coach. And I didn't think I would like it, but as the story progressed, you just get so sucked into their life and the things that they're dealing with. He's very rough around the edges, and she kind of is too, but he more so, very quiet, very stoic, and you're trying to like break down barriers. This whole book is about breaking down barriers from both of them. Now, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I talked about it before because As Good as Dead was my 1 star, but I gave book 1, and I think book 2 I gave a 4-star rating. I would say Good Girl's Guide to Murder, maybe a 4.75. Like, it was so close to being a 5-star. It was so fun. It was my first mystery, like true crime mystery novel that I've read, and it was so fun. I loved seeing these kids kind of work together to solve this cold case in their hometown. Very believable, very nuanced type of situation with this girl for a school project is interested in this case that happened 5 years ago in her town, and she's not convinced, and she thinks there needs to be closure. So she takes it upon herself because the police in her town don't really care. Like, they're like, all right, well, the case is solved, so that's fine. But it doesn't sit right with her. So yeah, it was really good. I did enjoy book 1 a lot. And on the opposite side of that, we have Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. While I gave The Rom-Comers a 3 stars, Hello Stranger was so unique. I never heard of face blindness before. Like I said before, Catherine Center does weird, like, not weird, but she includes situations or diseases or just like heavy subjects. She does them so well and intertwines them in like a lighthearted way. It makes it not as heavy, but also believable. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I do think Hello Stranger was probably one of my favorites that she's written so far that I've read. Also discovered Abby Jimenez in 2024, and I'm hooked. I did read Part of Your World and gave it 4 stars. There is more in that series. I don't think I read the second book in that series, but Part of Your World is, I think she's a doctor and he owns this like B&B in some side town. I don't know. And it's their relationship. But there's so much going on with her life, like her family, her ex-boyfriend, and her job is just insane. It was so good. I love how she writes. It's like raw, emotional, but also very witty. And she makes it fit in this romance, not rom-com because it's not cheesy. It's just like real. Very much Emily Henry vibes, but a little more funny, a little more cheeky. And if you want to talk about emotional, then we have to talk about Powerful. I did give this 4 stars, even though I gave Powerless and Reckless, all the stars, because it is a novella and I knew it was going to happen. And I wished it didn't. If you know, you know. I do have a full plot summary for book 1 and 2 on my channel. You can check them out up here. But yeah, Powerful is a novella that I will not get into because there would be spoilers, but it has to do with the character Adina. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, to say I cried would be an understatement. I did actually make a reading vlog also with this book on my 24-hour reading challenge. I did read this, so if you want to see my reaction to that, you can go ahead and watch that video. The No-Show by Beth O'Leary is another women's fiction. It has to do with 3 ladies who, they're complete strangers, and they realize that they're all dating the same person, but they find out at different points, and then, yeah, it's crazy. They all have been set up on the same day, on Valentine's Day. The ending was definitely emotional. I definitely cried, but Beth O'Leary does that to you. She does that. She makes you laugh. She makes you a little frustrated. She makes you cry. She makes you want to find a group of friends. And yeah, I can't believe I've been talking for like an hour now and I'm only halfway through my books. So we're gonna take a break. We're gonna eat some food. I made some chili and then I will come back because yeah, it's a doozy. So if you're still watching, I appreciate you. Quick stop. Gotta run some errands. And I figured I would take you along with me and we're gonna keep chatting about these books because we have no time to waste. And I'm going to try and speed up this video because I feel like it's taking forever. But Good Girl, Bad Blood is book 2 in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And this book, honestly, it wasn't needed, but it was still really good. Like, I do think our main character, Pip, she puts herself in situations that, honestly, she should know better. I do think that she's very naive, but again, if you're reading a YA book, I think you need to know going in that you shouldn't expect a super mature adult who is very wise and has been around for a while and knows common sense. Because she's not there yet. She's like 17, right? So if you go in knowing that, it made for a more enjoyable read. Excluding book 3 because she has no excuse for what she did in book 3. But yeah, I did give that book 4 stars. And I also give The Assassin's Apprentice 4 stars as well. That's book 1 in the Farseer trilogy. And I loved that book. It was slow at first because I didn't understand much about Fitz's backstory. I was kind of confused. I wasn't paying much attention. And I think when you're starting out with a high fantasy book, you need to pay attention to the first few chapters to understand the world you're jumping into because nothing is going to be like our world. So you have to understand why people are the way they are, where are we starting off? What's happening in this world? So I think I made that mistake going into it. Once you do get into it, it was so good. Fitz is just such a good character to get behind. He has so much potential. You're rooting for him the entire series. And his little side characters, the people that help him along the way in his journey of like, you know, becoming who he is, really phenomenal. Chef's kiss, so good. I didn't give it 5 stars only because there are moments where it is just a little slow. The action isn't really there. It almost reads like a drama, but in a fantasy world, if that makes sense. But definitely recommend if you are into fantasy books with a super interesting magic system. It's not really heavy. I wouldn't say it's more about like court politics and kingdoms, rulers, Game of Thrones type of situations, like just the drama with that and who's ruling what versus like magic, if that makes sense. Like the magic is there, but it's a subplot more than anything. Just Don't Fall by Emma St. Clair is book 1 in the Appy series. So I mentioned another hockey book earlier that is like a spin-off of the Sweater Weather series, but it has to do with these hockey players. This one is a brother's best friend and fake dating as well. So this one was actually really cute. I understood the chemistry between these two characters. The tension was high. Again, no spice. Closed door romance is only for that series, but so believable. We have Rachel Ryan's Resolutions, and the reason why I read this book is because it said it was for fans of Beth O'Leary. So I was sold, and it was really entertaining. We have a girl who has like a list of New Year's resolutions, so this would actually be perfect to read right now if you're looking for something like that, where it is a romance, like women's fiction, I guess, or contemporary romance, but she has a list of New Year's resolutions that are so relatable, like get a skincare routine going, put on makeup, or take yourself out on a date, like certain like weird things like that. And while she's doing this list for herself, she's learning about how to deal with the people in her life, not just herself and like loving herself, but also dealing with her mom, dealing with her ex-love who like comes into the picture. We have so much going on in this book, but it was just so good. It was heartwarming. It was great character development. The Housemaid Secret is book 2 in the Housemaid series, whatever, by Frida McFadden. Do I think it was needed? Absolutely not. But was it entertaining? 100%, and it was the last book I read on my 24-hour reading challenge. Very fast pace, little thriller situation with the same concept as The Housemaid. If you don't know, read The Housemaid because that one was so fun, and it is getting turned into like a movie, I think, with Sydney Sweeney. But yeah, she's a housemaid and there's drama and you're trying to figure out what's going on, and that's all I'm gonna say, but this is book 2 in that series. The Honeymoon Crashers by Christina Lauren was kind of a downer. I actually don't know why I gave it 4 stars. I'm gonna go ahead and change it in this video. We're knocking it down to like 3.5 stars because it really, like, it was fine. But The Unhoneymooners was so good. I did give that book 5 stars. I love Christina Lauren. Their writing is 10 out of 10. Just so good and funny. And the main character in The Unhoneymooners, it's her sister in book 2. Okay, so they join the honeymoon for the sister in book 1. Okay, so this is like a short read, very fast, nothing crazy, but yeah, it was good. But now that I'm thinking back on it, I don't think it was worth 4-star rating. Sorry, not sorry. We're pulling in to Kohl's because I have a million Amazon returns. Does anyone else do that? But before we go in, we're gonna go ahead and finish this list. 1,000 Heartbeats by Kiera Cass. So good. If you like YA romance, this was like it's in a fantasy world. It was so sweet. If you are a young adult reader or you like YA books, you need to read this book. It is so precious, so sweet. The most heartwarming story. I'm so glad I found it. I really like Kiera Cass. If you didn't like the Selection series, that's like that dystopian YA that she wrote a million years ago, give 1,000 Heartbeats a chance. I think you'll really like it. It's what you want a fairy tale romance to be, like to the T. It was so good. Finley Donovan is killing it. I did give 4 stars. I gave her other 2 3-star rating, but this one was 4 stars. It was so fun, so hilarious, so ridiculous. She's a mom and she accidentally gets somehow paid to like assassinate this guy. But again, she's a mom, she's a writer, a struggling writer, and she gets paid by some stranger like a bunch of money that she desperately needs to off some guy. It's hilarious. You have to read it. If you need a laugh, pick this book up. The Beekeeper's Cottage was a book I found on Cloud Library, and it's just like a very sweet, heartwarming romance. In this cottage, this woman is divorcing her husband. He is super crappy and wants to sell their house that she has not only loved, but she has her bees. Like, she has these bees that she gets honey from or whatever. It's her pride and joy, and he's trying to take it away from her. And we have this help that comes in, this guy, he comes in to be like a day laborer or whatever, and they become friends, and then it kind of grows from there, and it's just like a really sweet romance. Never would pick it up normally, but I just saw it trending on my Cloud Library app and decided to give it a chance, and it was really cute. Kind of reminds me of Virgin River in a way, but less cheesy. What the River by Isabella Banez was phenomenal. I cannot wait to read book 2. This book was so underhyped. It still is. More people need to be talking about this. If you like historical fiction or historical fantasy, if you like Divine Rivals, if you like adventure books, you need to pick this book up. It is set between Argentina and Egypt in like the late 1800s, early 1900s, maybe. So fun, very fast paced, like kind of reminds me of Indiana Jones a little. I feel like I'm all over the place with describing this book, but it is so good. I'm actually surprised I didn't give it 5 stars. Then we have Watching You by Lisa Jewell, and this book, while it was interesting, I didn't expect the ending, so I think that's why I gave it 4 stars, because I was pretty shocked with where this book ended up. If you're starting out with Lisa Jewell, this wouldn't be my first pick by a long shot, but it wasn't bad. Like it was a really enjoyable read. If you like mysteries that have to do with like the headmaster of a school and kind of going back and forth in timelines, like past, present situation, it was really good. The Housewife's Secret, I absolutely have no idea what this book is about. I read it back in April, and for the life of me, I cannot, even after reading the description, cannot remember what this book was about. So I gave it 4 stars. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Spectacular by Stephanie Garber is a novella that takes place in the Carvel universe. This is a very short Christmas story that takes place after the events of Finale. If you haven't read Carvel, definitely recommend. It is such a great YA fantasy. Stephanie Garber writes whimsical stories so well. This one does read almost like a Christmas Carol, but it's perfect for the holiday season. And I read it in just a couple of hours. So if that's your kind of, if that's what you like to read, definitely read it, but don't read it unless you've read Carvel. Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands was probably one of my most anticipated reads of 2024. I was so excited. I love Emily Wilde. I love Bamblebee so much, and I love how we get to go into his world and see more of what this fairy fae type of species is compared to other fantasy books that we've read. It is nothing like that, and it was just done so well. Emily Wilde is just so quirky and like not who you would expect to be with someone like Bamblebee, but they work so well together. I absolutely love them. Was it as good as book 1? No, because I gave that one 5 stars, but it was still really enjoyable, and I'm excited to see what she comes up with the rest of this series. The Spare Room by Laura Starkey, so good. I like this almost as much as The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. I'm actually gonna put both of these in at the same time because they're super similar. They have 2 roommates, they become roommates, and they fall in love essentially, but there's so much more nuance to that. So I would recommend The Flat Share over The Spare Room, but if you read The Flat Share and you're like, I need more of something like this, then read The Spare Room. They're both really good. I would almost give The Flat Share a 5-star rating. I think I'm just really critical of my ratings, honestly, but it was phenomenal. They are so cheeky, so original. In The Flat Share, they communicate via post-it notes, which is just so cute. And the guy in The Spare Room, he is such like this protector, burly man that's like super chill and can also be your best friend. He just checks all the boxes. Perfect. And we are almost done with this dang vlog, but I'm gonna go ahead and head into Kohl's right now, return my Amazon packages, and then we will get home and finish this video with my 5-star reads of 2024. We are back to talk about the 5-star reads of 2024. If you guys have stayed this long for the video, good job. I've been waiting to talk about these all year long. I haven't done any monthly recaps, so I'm excited to talk about these with you guys. And we're gonna start off strong because I want to talk about The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This is my first Kristen Hanna book that I've ever read, and she was a doozy. I didn't know going in it was gonna be such an emotional pulling throughout the entire book. Not one page, I don't think one chapter went by where I wasn't just in shock of the events transpiring in this book. It's about 2 sisters in the midst of World War II. They have this weird relationship with one another. Their upbringing is strange, and they're adults now. One is this more free-spirited person, and another one is a mother, a wife. Her husband is going off into the war, and they live in France, so there is a lot of stuff happening with the Germans and the Nazis occupying France at this time. It's very distressing, to say the least. But it was done in such a great, beautiful way. The ending was so nice and I wouldn't even say nice as in like a necessarily happy ending, but all the pieces tied together really well. Redemption is a super big theme in this as well. Second chances, love. There's just so much in this book to unpack. Friendship. So yeah, definitely recommend. It was perfect. If you have any other Kristen Hanna books that you really like, let me know. I'm a little scared to read other books by her, only because this one was so emotional, but it was a really good book nonetheless, so I should read more of her. The Sisters of Seaview and Winter by the Sea, book 1 and 2 of the Devonshire Shores, that's a tongue twister, series. I just picked up book 3. It released in December, and they were both 5-star reads for me. They are historical fictions / historical romance. There is romantic plot lines happening. So we have this sisters, this family, their dad dies, and they don't really have money. The property does not belong to them because women can't own property at this time, so it's gonna go to like a family member or whatever if they can't pay for it. And they don't want to get a job as a governess or as anything else because that's like worst case scenario. So they decide to turn their home into like this bed and breakfast type of thing, and they all have to work together to make it work. So we have that plot line happening. Then all these sisters are of age, they're in society, and so it's time for them to get married. So we have that going on as well, and we go back and forth in POVs with the different sisters. So yeah, really liked book 1 and the romantic relationships that we had in book 1. Book 2 is interesting because it deals with one sister specifically, but it also gives insight into Queen Victoria, like when she was a baby, and what her family did, because they actually did vacation at this little town. So the author did a really good job with doing her research, and there is a footnote at the back, and she talks about the research and where she went to get all of the information on this town and the royal family when they came during this time. Really, really cool. Also, this is a Christian fiction, so it will have some elements where they talk about praying, going to church, things like that, and just kind of relying on the Lord to kind of help navigate their decisions that they have to make in these books. So I personally love them. If you like historical fictions or historical romances, you will like this. If you like Jane Austen at all, you will like this. I would even go so far to say if you like Bridgerton, you would like this as well. It just has really good familial relationships in this series. And I do think they deserve more hype than they get. I did reread A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber because I did a complete plot summary on book 3. You can watch it over here. So we're including it in my 5-star reads of 2024 because I did have to read the whole thing in order to write the script. And as always, she is perfection. Yeah, the whole series is perfection. There's not much more I can say about it because I did a full plot summary on all 3 books. So obviously I'm obsessed with them. Do I think we should have gotten more of Jax's POV in this? Absolutely. Do I think that the ending was rushed? Also, yes, but I still liked where we ended up. I love the happily ever after that we get, and all the loose ends are tied, and the people that are bad, they get what they deserve. Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers is another historical fiction, historical romance / Christian fiction book. This is actually the first Christian fiction I think I've ever read, but it has so many good reviews. It had, like, up there with The Nightingale. It's very popular. And for good reason. It was a very emotional read. It was very hard to read. There is a lot of very dark and very real situations that happen in this book. If you are triggered by SA or child, you just be warned. But this is a story about forgiveness. It's a story about redemption and second chances and love. So think of that, but also just know that, like, yeah. And this actually, what's really cool about Redeeming Love is it is based off of the book of Hosea in the Bible. So the parables between the two is really, really cool. And it's very emotional. Just be warned, you will need tissues the entire time you're reading this book. But it was very well done. And it has to do with like the Wild West or the gold rush, the California gold rush. So I would think that time period. It was rough out there. And I'm really glad I wasn't alive back then because, yeah, it seemed pretty rough to be a woman. It seemed pretty hard. If you weren't married off to like a secure person, times were tough, for sure. But through grace and forgiveness and mercy, everything works out in this book. And yeah, it was a really sweet, happy ending. 5 stars. The last book I read in 2024 was Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This is a short story, I believe, and it's about this cafe where when you go in, there's a table there, and if you sit at this table and the barista pours you tea or coffee, you have until the time that it gets cold for you to go back into the past or the future or whatever and talk to somebody that you want to talk to. So let's say someone's wronged you, or you hurt someone, or it's a past loved one that's no longer here or whatever. You have the opportunity to go see them, and it can't change your present. That's the caveat. Like, there's a bunch of rules to it, but Yeah. And so we follow these different stories, these mini stories of these individuals that use this table or this cafe as an opportunity to talk to loved ones in their past. I did not expect the ending. The ending really got me. I did really, really good and didn't cry the whole book. And then the last page and a half, yeah, it really got me. But it was so well written and very original. I also think this would make for a really interesting book club read because of the storylines and the people in the cafe that come, the different POVs that we get. They're so different and so interesting, and it would be really interesting to discuss further and dive in deeper to the problems that they're facing and what would be the best resolution for them. If you read this book, let me know if the others are worth reading. If you haven't, please give it a shot. If you are hesitant to read something like this, it's more like a lit fic / magical realism, I think you should give it a shot. It is really, really short and you will read it in a few hours, but it's worth it. You will either love or hate this next book, but Reckless by Lauren Roberts. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It gave me everything I wanted it to give me in book 2. A lot of people would disagree with that sentiment. It wasn't as fast-paced as book 1, and there isn't much happening in the world of Ilya. We really just get Peyton and Kai kind of going back and forth with their love story, but we focus so much on them, and I think it's intentional. I have a feeling that book 3, it's not going to be really great for them, and they're going to something, I don't know, I have a feeling we had them pushed together so much in this book that book 3, the opposite may happen. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, because these guys are endgame for me, but yeah, I really loved it. I love how pretty Kai talks. It's so funny. Obviously, completely unrealistic. I don't know if people ever talk like this, but the way he talks about Peyton is so sweet. It's so cute. You just gotta gobble it up. Delicious. I love every second of this book. I'm obsessed. I do have merch on my Etsy page, so shameless plug right here. You can go ahead and check it out in the description box. But I have like candles and sweatshirts and stuff for Reckless and Powerless because I'm obsessed with Peyton and Kai. But I don't really have much to say. If you didn't like this book, I think you should just have different expectations. Change your expectations, reread it, give it a second chance. I just love it for what it is. That's it. Another highly anticipated read for 2024 that I got and absolutely devoured is Apprentice to the Villain. She is stunning. I love whoever illustrates these covers. Hannah Nicole Mayer has the best sense of humor. We could be best friends. This book is hilarious. It's cheeky, it's satirical, it's sarcastic. It is so good, and she does it so well. She does dry humor so well while also mixing in this highly ridiculous fantasy plot with these two characters. Evie and Tristan are amazing in every way, shape, and form, and I cannot wait for book 3. If you don't know, this is about a girl who gets a job in a really weird way for this like villain person, and she is super sunshiny. Very sunshiny. He is super grumpy, so grumpy sunshine. She falls first, but she has to like maintain professionalism because that's her boss. Yeah, and it's also clean, okay? There's no spice or anything in this book. It's just a really cutesy fantasy read, and book 3 is coming out I think in this year. Could be wrong. So yeah, give it a shot. I also reread And Then There Were None. I've read that book now probably 3 or 4 times. It is so good. It is the original whodunit mystery novel. If you haven't read it and you didn't read it in high school, go ahead and read it. It's so fast-paced. It's also free on Audible, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I think you will love it. It's so good. You'll never expect the ending. Every time I read it, I'm like, man, how do people not see this coming? It makes so much sense once everything's tied together. And it's so exciting every time you read it. So what happens when a bunch of people are put together on an island and then one by one they just start, getting kicked off? If you know what I mean. You have to find out how it ends, but it's awesome. A Not So Fictional Fall by Savannah Scott. I was pleasantly surprised. Again, I don't ever give rom-coms a 5-star rating, but this one was so cute. I honestly think it did deserve a 5 stars. This is book 6 in the Sweater Weather series, also on, and it is a marriage of convenience trope, which I absolutely love. I think they're so funny and kind of ridiculous and unrealistic, but nevertheless, They make for good reading. He is this French author person disguised, like he has a pen name, so everyone thinks that he's a woman author. And then at this book convention, it's revealed that it's like this guy, and she's like his biggest fan, and for whatever reason they have to get married, and essentially that's the book. It was really well done though. So fun. You're looking for some closed door romances, definitely check out this entire series, but more than that, just this book in general. If you don't read any of the other books, read this one because it was so good. I also read Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. This is a highly anticipated read for so many people, and for good reason. This book definitely lived up to the hype. The expectations were there, they were met. I have the Owl Crate edition and it is stunning. And it was just the perfect conclusion to Divine Rivals. Sometimes you don't need a whole series. I think if you could do a fantasy series in 2 or 3 books, you hit the nail on the head. That's all you need. And this book did not disappoint. It was emotional, it was fast-paced. There are some moments that are more action-y, I guess, but if you don't know, this is like a historical fantasy with these 2 writers. So they both work for this newspaper place, and they're writing about the war that's happening between these 2 god people. And because it's like in this historical setting, they're writing with typewriters, and there's this like magical typewriter that they realize that can send letters back and forth via these 2 typewriters. It is so cool. If you like You've Got Mail, you will love this series, but it is so beautiful. And like I said, it is emotional. So if you like fantasy, like emotional YA fantasy, this is the book to read. The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer was I think it's magical realism, or it's a lit fic. And it has to do with adoption, and I didn't expect it at all. So imagine your favorite popular like best-selling children's author is doing this crazy competition with a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity like to change your life if you win, right? And this girl that is a teacher, she is really trying to adopt this boy in her class. He has like not a great home life, but she cannot afford to adopt him. Like it just isn't gonna happen. So she signs up for this competition because it's this little boy's favorite author as well. And she does this competition. She tries to like win these games because she wants to get the prize and change this boy's life, adopt him. It is so original. I've never read a book like this before, and I love the concept so much. I think it was beautifully written. The messages, the themes in this book were really impactful, very emotional, but it just feel good as well. Just a really good feel good lit fic. So if you're looking for something less fantasy, more just tug at your heartstrings and make you feel really good about humanity, The Wishing Game is a good option. Another book kind of with the same type of feelings that you're gonna get would be The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I saw on Goodreads it had mixed reviews, but I do think it's worth giving a shot. It's about a girl who is contemplating ending her life, honestly, and she ends up in this like in-between place in her mind with this librarian, and this librarian has books all around her with different versions of this girl's life and what her life would look like if she had made a certain decision in her life. How different would her life be? And it's so thought-provoking. I think it's worth everyone picking up and reading. It's a very reflective book. It has so much hope in it, and while it's not really fast-paced, it does make you think a lot, and you won't really realize how fast you're getting through it, even though I do think there's so much detail. Like, you just have to pay attention while you're reading it, but it is also emotional because it is a heavy topic, so be warned there. But I think it's worth reading, and I need to read more from him. He did a really good job with this. The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year, I also gave 5 stars by Allie Carter. This is a Christmas time mystery rom-com. How she was able to pull off all of these elements in one book, I have no idea, but she is so funny. She's very cheeky. Her writing always is. I loved this so much. It's kind of like a whodunit, Knives Out type of book with a lot of banter, sarcasm, and it's set in this like mansion in the middle of winter in England somewhere. So it is so cool. It is the perfect winter read, so wait till you could either read it now or wait till next Christmas time to pick up this book, but it was so good. Honestly, I don't know how anyone would dislike it. Then I read Driven by Eternity by John Bevere. This is a nonfiction. I think it's the only nonfiction book I read this year, and it is a Christian nonfiction book talking about eternity and heaven and just the importance of all of that. So if you are looking for a good Bible study book to read alone, to read with other people, this is a great option. It is very deep, but it goes into so many important topics that you don't hear a lot when you're, I don't know, just in your regular everyday life or church service. It makes you think a lot about the decisions you make in your everyday life and the people you're interacting with and how it could impact you and them and eternity. So I think it was a very important read, a really good read. He breaks things down in such a practical way that makes it so easy to digest and understand, and I highly recommend, if you are a Christian, check out this book. Going back to the Farseer trilogy, I gave book 2, Royal Assassin, a 5-star rating. I like this so much more than book 1. I do think it picks up in pace between book 1 and book 3 in this book, and yeah, his life is just so fun and interesting to follow, and I gobbled it up. It was so interesting. I don't know what else to say because I talked about the Farseer trilogy a lot already, I think, in this video. Same with Murtagh. This is a continuation of the inheritance cycle, and I did really enjoy this book. A lot of people don't like his writing style, which I totally get. It is pretty slow paced in certain parts of the book, and a lot of people have DNF'd it because of that. I think I can get behind it just because I don't mind the details all the time. I do think this could have been a smaller book and it could have gotten the job done. Nevertheless, I did really enjoy it. A book that took me by surprise is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I was not expecting to like this book. I actually didn't like the cover, and I kept seeing it show up on my Cloud Library app available to check out of my library, and I just kept scrolling through it. One day I had nothing to read. I decided, let me pick this up. It may be a 3-star read for me, and oh my goodness, it was not. I gave this 5 stars. It was so good. I love it. I loved it so much. This is book 3 technically in the Part of Your World series, so it's a standalone, but you could read the other books in this series to get to meet the other characters that do show up. It's the perfect book for summertime, and I love how it started. It starts with this Reddit thread, and it's a guy talking on Reddit that kind of went viral, and this girl, Emma, she reads the thread, she reads this Reddit blurb, and she's like, oh my gosh, him and I have the same dilemma. So she slides into his DMs and they spark up a friendship. Now she's a travel nurse, and she is supposed to be going to like Hawaii or something with her friend who's also a travel nurse, and instead they decide to spend the summer in Michigan or something where he lives to kind of just get to know each other and be friends or whatever. It was so interesting. I absolutely loved it. I love their relationship. He is the guardian also to his siblings, so he has some issues with his mother, and so he's now responsible. He's basically a dad now for his siblings, and she also has some issues with her mom, and there's a lot of stuff that happens there. So we have a lot of relationships that we're unpacking in this book, but their romance was so cute and very believable. Somehow we made this Reddit thread romance turn into like a real thing, and it was so good, so cheeky, so original. Definitely love it. Abby Jimenez, she surprised me for sure. I need to read more from her. But we have finally come to my favorite book of 2024. I actually thought Reckless was gonna take the cake here, or maybe Ruthless Vows, but I'm sorry, this book just won it over for me, and I plan to reread this time and time again. It is so good. That is Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. This book has me in a chokehold. It is so good, and it's not the typical book I would go for. I do think that I really prefer like a high fantasy romantasy plotline, or maybe even a dystopian, but this is such a weird and unique magic system that has to do with colors. I don't know how to explain this book at all, but the characters have so much depth to them. They are so thought out. The entire story is very thought-provoking and exciting. I wish Brandon Sanderson would write more in just this little world, or maybe write a sequel to it, because it was so good. We have 2 sisters, Vivenna and Siri. One of them is engaged to be married to some person, and the other one is kind of like a nobody, like no one really cares about her, so we follow them too, as well as somebody else in the storyline, and it's just so good. I I'm actually rendered speechless because I don't know how to describe and convince you to read this book, but just trust me, okay? These 5-star reads are the best. They're so, so good for so many different reasons, but this is my favorite of the year. I do plan on reading more by Brandon Sanderson. I'm going to do a reread of The Way of Kings so that I can do the entire Stormlight archives this year, but this is definitely his best work. And I do wish that there was a sequel to this, but if it has to be a standalone fantasy and you're looking for a standalone fantasy, check out Warbreaker. It's perfection. But we finally did it, and my fire went out, and that is the perfect time to wrap up this video because it has gone on long enough. But those are the 95 or 96 books I read in 2024. I have no expectations for what this year will bring because whenever I do these videos, I'm surprised at how much I read. It was a lot. But yeah, I'm so excited that we made it to the end of this video. Let me know how many books you read in the comments down below. I'm excited to do more filming with you guys this year. That is the only goal I have, is not necessarily to read a certain number, but just to chat with you guys more about books, give you book recommendations, take you with me as I go book shopping and things like that. And if you have any recommendations on what you'd like to see on my channel, let me know as well. But yeah, thank you guys so, so much for watching. God bless you guys into this new year. I pray you all have the most amazing, blessed 2025 ever. But until next time, I will see you in my next video. Mwah. Bye!